Hello and welcome to another episode of our podcast series, Got 5 Minutes, where we explore something new in the fintech space in less than 5 minutes of your time. So, got 5 minutes? Great. Let's talk about device risk scores. This is Azmeen Ansar, Marketing Manager at CredoLab, and today I have with me Gavin Barker, Head of Partnerships in EMEA for TransUnion Global Fraud Solutions. Hi Gavin, and thank you for joining us today.
No, you're welcome. Absolute pleasure to be here.
Great. Let's start by diving right into device risk score. So can you start by telling us what a device risk score is, how does it work, and how can it tell me as a lender that my applicant is a fraudulent customer?
Yeah, certainly. I'll do my best to do that. So a device risk score is essentially a score based on a number of attributes and risk signals that are actually collected from an end user's device or a consumer's device when they're interacting with a lender. So when they're applying for the loan or the account, whatever it may be, we can extract attributes from the device, then they go into building up this overarching risk score. How does this assist when it comes to identifying and detecting fraud? Essentially, in the digital arena, there is a lot of challenges out there with personal data being widely available. So by enhancing your risk strategies and adding device into there, you're able to assess more data within your risk mitigation. When it comes to the device, you can see some very interesting risk signals that you would otherwise miss. Things like how many times is the same device applying? Where is the device coming from? Is it using a dark web connection? So that's kind of how it works, and that's how the score is developed off those attributes. And then obviously it gives you more risk signals to base your decisions on.
All right. So while analyzing the device risk score, what attributes do you look at? Do you access any of the device's personal data?
When it comes to the types of attributes that we collect, it varies really from region to region on what is deemed as personal when it comes to device-based attributes. When it comes to the collection, we typically are collecting things like browser language, screen resolution, operating systems, and a number of what we class as very much device-centric, non-identifiable information. However, obviously, regulatory changes around the world have happened, so there is certain elements of what we class as personal data attributes that is collected via device ID. One such example could be IP address, which in the EU is under GDPR deemed as personal information. We do collect that, and we use that and leverage that in our geolocation rules for anomalies and risk detection. However, it's not directly identifiable. The rest of the attributes are very much device-centric, as I mentioned before, and actually by looking at these device-based attributes and rules, we feed this intelligence back to our end users and allow them to build their own rules around the data elements we see, so they can actually fine-tune their risk scores to their specific needs and requirements. And obviously geolocation aspects will vary dependent on the region the financial services company operates in as to where they may see that it's high risk or not, and also it kind of comes into being able to identify things like Tor browser connections as well.
Tying this back to CredoLab, when we look at the digital onboarding, how does TransUnion's device risk work with CredoLab's credit scoring?
So obviously, when it comes to how does it work, technically they're both combined. So for instance, if you're able to utilize the CredoLab service, the innovation or the device risk component is built in within that. So straight away, it's a singular API that allows you to leverage both services in one easy to use singular integration. The way it technically works as such as well is the fact that not only is it going to allow you to assess somebody's creditworthiness or propensity to pay in the digital channel where there may be a thin file, there may be a lack of traditional bureau data, and you then can also couple that with having some risk and fraud prevention screening on there. So it allows you to kind of tackle both the credit risk side of the business as well as actually identifying any risk from a fraud perspective as well. So the way it works together is really to combine to bring to any lender a very powerful onboarding tool.
Great. With that, we come to an end of the podcast. Thank you so much again, Gavin, for joining us.
Absolute pleasure.
To our listeners, please head to our blog, Tech and Innovation, Best Bet Against Financial Frauds in the Digital Age, linked along with this podcast to know more about CredoLab and TransUnion's joint offering. And as usual, keep an eye out for our next episode as we venture into new areas of fintech space along with our guest speakers. Until then, take care, stay safe, and happy holidays!